Happy Sunday, everyone. It's the Wise Guys. And why are we here on Sunday? Well, I've been working late on Thursday night, so Jim has been nice enough to accommodate my schedule. Welcome to a Sunday Night with the Wise Guys. I am one of your hosts, the Big Weekend on Sports, Mike Martinez. I will bring in now my co-host with the most, there's really no way to describe you without being semi-complimentary, and I don't know if I can do that today, James. It's just, it's the Lord's Day, so I guess I kind of have to be, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like how I brought it up to my boss last week at work. It's almost like it's a celebration when it's somebody other than us, as we officially have our first guest coming in with their contractually obligated appearance.
And the thing is, he's sticking out, even though I'm using the green screen that you designed for me, as Oliver's tail at least is here with us this evening. Give me a second. Let's bring him in here. Ollie, come on. There he is. And happy Sunday to you, James. How are you, sir?
Happy Sunday. It's winding down a long weekend. As I was telling you off the air, it's going to be really good sleeping weather because here in Cleveland, it's the first time we've had moisture in 16 days, 17 days.
And here a couple days ago in southern Georgia, I thought we'd need a boat to get home.
Yeah, gladly trade. It's almost like anyone who's grass, like my father especially, he's got to be reenacting like how Tim Robbins was at the end of the Shawshank Redemption. No, the part where he climbs out of the drain, not the very end where.
Not on the beach.
Right.
But in the drain. No, that's a great movie.
That's like, for me, that's the stop the remote, drop the remote and wherever you are, it's like, okay, whatever game was on, I'm not watching the rest of it then. That's like the stop you in your track type movie.
Yeah, I got a couple like that too. Blazing Saddles. Although on TV, it's never the same.
Right.
Believe it or not, The Bone Collector. Denzel Washington, Angelina Jolie. He plays the New York City detective of forensics, and he gets paralyzed. Like, the cast is insane. Luis Guzman is in it. Michael Rooker's in it. Queen Latifah plays his nurse. Ed O'Neill is in it. Exactly. You got Denzel Washington and Al Bundy in the same movie. Michael
Rooker. I'm always going to remember him as Roddy Burns in Days of Thunder.
He's always going to be Yondu Udanta for me. And then for my wife, he's Merle from The Walking Dead.
Never watched it. I didn't have cable when it was on, and I've got no interest in it now that I do.
Well, here's a funny thing. I sat down and watched the pilot episode with her, and when they ate the horse, I was out.
The only zombie thing I actually have that I actually enjoyed was the first Zombieland. I still haven't seen the second one.
Yeah, I haven't seen either one of them, although Ash versus Evil Dead, if you're a Bruce Campbell person like I am.
How can you go wrong with Bruce Campbell?
You can't. I didn't realize him and Sam Raimi have been best friends since they were kids.
Yeah, it's I more so remember him as Sam Ash from Burn Notice, but it's I do know that one of the heavy metal bands one of the metal bands I listen to, they're a comedy metal band called Psycho Stick, and they literally did a song. It was an ode to Bruce Campbell. Bruce Campbell was the finest man to grace a silver screen. All the other actors degrade his noble scenes. The Oscars should award him for his wondrous career. Hold a town parade for him with each movie premiere. And throughout the course, they basically put him in, as Spider-Man, instead of being the voice of the narrator in the Spider-Man video game. They put him. What was my favorite line? Casablanca would have been improved if Campbell would have said, "Here's looking at you, you primitive screwhead."
So And we've already detoured. I don't see.
Yeah, I'm sending you the Bruce Campbell video after we get out of here. It's 3.5 minutes. You could watch it before you go to bed. It's laugh out loud funny.
That's great. So anyways, we got a lot to get to tonight. We got an insane NHL Stanley Cup Finals. We have, I think, pretty well scripted, but somehow not NBA Finals. We have, of course, the. Would you use the term clusterfuck, James? That is the PGA Tour.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that, and then there's a possibility we may have a guest coming on tonight. We'll actually save that for the back half of the show.
Yes, we shall. And I'm actually going to turn the background off because it's starting to get a little sluggish, and I don't want to do that. Plus, Ollie's back, and we should see him if he's contractually obligated to be here.
Right.
So, James, let's jump into the Stanley Cup Finals. When Pat McAfee is tweeting out video of the final seconds of a game, it must have gotten pretty crazy. Now, did I see that there were multiple fights at the end of the game the other night?
Yes, it was Vegas. I did not watch Game 4 last night, but Vegas has taken their liberties, especially with Matthew Tkachuk, the all-world forward for the Florida Panthers, who quite honestly, if Vegas comes back and wins this series, Matthew Tkachuk's going to get the Conn Smythe. Right now, I got to think it's going to be either Aiden Hill or Jonathan Marchessault for Vegas, and I don't see how Vegas loses 3 in a row, especially after the last couple of games. But yeah, there were a lot of liberties involved, but you got to think that if you're a casual fan and you read the box score, how Vegas walked away with that entire melee of only Alex Pietrangelo, who was the captain of these guys' lone Stanley Cup championship 4 years ago. And I can't believe it's been 4 years. It was 4 years earlier this week. Still the greatest night of my professional life, and sportsdom as well, including the Cavs 2016 championship. How he walked away with only a 2-minute penalty, and then Florida got hit with 3 misconduct penalties as well in the after the final horn, which could necessitate potential suspensions, is beyond me.
See, here's my question, and number one, I couldn't tell who started the fight. I
still haven't seen the whole thing.
McAfee, it was either on Instagram or he tweeted it out that I saw it. And I didn't watch it with sound. I was sitting here where Bobby had, his thing on YouTube, and Steph and I were sitting here, and he was losing his mind today. But it almost looked like that Vegas instigated this fight. And I understand Florida's frustrated with the way they played, with the way Vegas is out. They've just outplayed them.
Yeah, when they jumped out to a 3-0 lead and then held on, yeah.
Yeah, and what did they score? How many did they blow them out in game 1? Was it?
Not game 1. It was 7-2 in game 2.
Okay. That's right, because sorry. Again, with the work schedule and the fact that the Mets are making me want to throw things through walls.
Right.
It's been a rough couple of weeks. But I think Florida is extremely frustrated. However, this could light a fire, especially with the penalties going the way they did. That's horseshit. I'm sorry. How do you only get 2 minor penalties out of that, and you get 3 game misconducts?
There's also talk that Tkachuk is injured, and his status for Game 5 is still up in the air. Head coach Paul Maurice hasn't said anything yet.
Well, that's
over. I mean, at least they've got until Tuesday to figure it out.
Well, it's over if you don't play.
Right.
So
you can't expect guys like Carter Verhaeghe and Alexei Barkov to be able to step up. And I'm sorry that they're playing with house money right now. Granted, they've actually got 1 win in the Stanley Cup Finals, which is still more than certain teams like Columbus can actually say.
Stop.
Even though Columbus went out and made a major trade earlier this week.
What did they do?
I can't remember it off the top of my head. I heard it, like all of my Blue Jacket friends are like They got Damon Severson from the Devils in a sign and trade, and then he signed an 8-year contract extension. Now, Severson is one of the main reasons why the Devils got into the playoffs to begin with, even though they choked away in the first round against they beat the Rangers in the first round and then basically got the floor mopped with them by Carolina in the second round.
Well, I would say I knew the Devils beat the Rangers because that's point of contention for people I know back north.
Yeah, Severson signed. It was a sign and trade for the defenseman, 8-year, $50 million contract, and he was making 6.25 AAV with the Devils, and gave him up for a third round pick in this year's draft.
That's it.
Yeah, I think it was more so of a cap thing, but. Now Columbus actually has absolutely no excuse for next year if we're getting off topic for a second, because you still got Patrick Laine and you got Johnny Hockey, who was your big signing last year. And I think I am going to do a free agency, thing like I did last year, which was, pretty popular with this. But that's going to be extremely interesting because Columbus got the cap money. But then again, when you finish near the absolute basement again after making all those moves in the Eastern Conference, you can afford to do that. Now you got to do something with it. You've got no other excuses. But getting back to the finals, my worst nightmare is coming true.
Vegas Jack
Eichel's going to get a cup.
Yeah, and look, I know you can't stand the son of a bitch, and I don't blame you. Apparently, he didn't know who Charles Barkley was.
He doesn't know. Jack Eichel doesn't know what a lot of things are.
Like asshole from the elbow? Yeah, I know.
Right.
Is he that big of a douche?
Yeah, you could actually tell even when Buffalo bent over backwards, made him the captain and everything. You can tell he really didn't want to be there. Now, granted, the ownership scenario was not the greatest, and it's like, and at least now the Pagulas have the franchise headed in the right direction, but it was bad front office moves, bad roster moves. Kevin Adams coming in for the Sabres was started to roll. I want to say clean house, move turn a few heads here, and it all stemmed from Eichel wanting to get the neck surgery, whereas the Sabres wanted him to do therapy, and that was the standstill of butting heads for 6 months after he got hurt. But both teams are going to come out on the end of it. It's Vegas is going to come out with a cup while they're way over the cap, and then Sabres are going to be in the playoffs next year, finally breaking the NHL record for futility. It's the longest playoff drought, I want to say, of any team in the 4 professional sports right now, of 13 straight years.
They haven't been to the playoffs since Hasek was there, have they?
No, it was Hasek. I think the last time they were there, they had gone back to the old uniforms, but they were still wearing the numbers on the front.
Okay.
I want to say it was 2007. Hasek retired, I want to say, 5 or 6 years earlier. Did you see the story involving Hasek while we're on the topic of it?
I did not.
The Czech Republic Hockey Hall of Fame has to close. And all of those legendary players, if they're still alive, have to come and get their gear. So there's a bunch of Hasek gear that he put out on Twitter. He had to go pick up a lot of that gear from the Hall of Fame. I'm not sure. I think it was a funding thing.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So he's got pads in there from, when he won a Stanley Cup, when he got the Czech Republic a gold medal in the Olympics. A bunch of world championships in there. But yeah, it's but then again, if you think about it, as great players as the Czech Republic's turned out over the years, you're synonymous with 2 names, Hasek and Jágr.
Yeah. Is Jágr still trying to play in Russia somewhere?
I think he finally hung him up. But I also think right now, with how, I don't want to say bad the team is, but with the economy, I think he's got to sell that team, which he doesn't want to do because he's keeping the team right now so those guys can get paid.
Yeah, that's a tough choice. All right, so real quick, 30-second hypothetical. First one to actually finish playing, because these guys are still playing where no one can watch them. Bartolo Colon, Julio Franco, or Yarmer Yager?
Yager,
Okay.
because Julio Franco's got to be pushing 60, and Cologne, the closest he'll get to 60 or the number of cheeseburgers he can pound in a weekend.
Please don't hate on Big Sexy. I don't need this to become anger between you and I tonight. And all kidding aside, the Mets are actually having a retirement ceremony for him. I think it's sometime in August.
Well deserved. Well deserved.
And his most iconic moment was with the Mets, the home run.
Right.
You want to hear something crazier than that?
Although Albert Pujols yanking his jersey out of his belt, after getting robbed by Trout on a home run, is up there.
It wasn't even Trout that robbed the home run. It was Chris Young.
That's right. It was a center fielder. I forgot that Trout hadn't gotten there yet.
That one. Did you ever see the play he made against Justin Bour in 2015?
Refresh my memory. I probably have.
He's throwing two seamers to the outside corner to Bour all night. He throws one. Bour tops at the first baseline. This dude goes over, grabs it, and flips it behind his back.
Yes.
MLB, the app, had every call of that. It had Gary Cohen and Howie Rose, and it had the Marlins. The Marlins call, they're laughing. They're just straight laughing.
Because if he falls, he's going to leave a crater in the grass.
Well, there's that. But the funny thing is, if you watched it from the back angle, he picks the ball up and he's smiling already because he knows what he's going to do.
Yeah, but the other aspect of that is that, it's like 300 and he blocks out the sun.
Yeah. So it looks like the Stanley Cup Finals are going to be an anger-inducing thing for you with who gets his name on the cup. Listen, but good for a young franchise in Las Vegas.
7-8 years in and going to be hoisting a cup, but it gets no better, if you're a hockey fan, because if you can't stand Vegas with their antics and everything, and all the bitching, they're going to get, they're going to back their way into a cup. After missing the playoffs for the first time in franchise history last year, and then we shift our focus to the draft, where the Blackhawks are going to be officially drafting Connor Bedard, setting them up for the future.
Yeah, no, I know. And you and Alex were talking about that. I did a little more reading on what happened with Chicago Blackhawks, and they should be burned.
The Kyle Beach incident, yes.
They should be burned at the stake.
Yes.
The guy playing under center in Cleveland. But anyways, I digress. Let's jump into the NBA Finals. Let's talk about a 3-1 lead for the Denver Nuggets, who, by the way, that Game 2 win by Miami was impressive to me.
Yes.
I will give them that. As we go back to Denver for Game 5, is this thing getting back to Miami?
Not a chance. Not a chance. And did I or did I not call that last week? I said that Miami's going to get one so Denver can win their first title on their home floor in front of their fans. Those fans deserve it.
I agree. But remember, Miami's got something going for them that, only happens. Dude, we are literally T-minus 8 days from the 7-year anniversary of the greatest comeback in NBA Finals history. What do those things have in common? Kevin Love. I will go out on a limb and say this: Spoelstra's a better coach than Ty Lue.
Yeah, it's because he's got 2 titles, and he's actually been in a third. He's been in 2 more, I should say.
Yeah, he's got 3 rings. He was on staff for Riley in 2006.
Right.
But as the head coach, he's got the 2 and the 2 other appearances in the finals. 3 other appearances in the finals because they were in the bubble finals.
Right. It's and did you see what Denver did the other night in that Game 3 win, where it was Jokic and I can't remember who else both had triple doubles? It was the first time in NBA history 2 players had triple doubles scoring on the same team, scoring more than 30 points each.
Yeah, and Jokic's line was stupid. Yeah, I don't think it gets past this game either, but you have to ask yourself the question. If Miami wins game 5 and the media starts talking about the Golden State Warriors, which they are going to do, we both know that. Could this creep in? I mean, I was playing the Xbox thing and Bobby was napping. And the one thing, get out of my face. The one thing I did watch was the mini movie from that finals. And I remember LeBron saying, we had to win one on their floor anyway. Why not game 5? And then when we get home in game 6 in front of our fans, we know what our fans can bring us. And then game 7 is a different animal no matter where it is.
All due respect to you, I'm going to punch a hole in your theory right now.
Go ahead. No, I'm just throwing it out there.
When the Warriors were up 3-1, the difference is the best player in the world had the one. And then as trigger happy from the outside as the Warriors were, you knew if those shots didn't fall because they didn't have much of an inside game, that series could shift. Now the tide's reversed. You've got the best team in basketball essentially with the best player in the world, and they're up 3-1. Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, very good. They're not Nikola Jokic. Combined, they're not Nikola Jokic.
I agree with you. I was only bringing it up because not only we're this close to the anniversary of the greatest comeback of all time. Miami's been counted out before. And they came back and they got, well, first of all, they got to the playoffs. And second of all, they had to win a game 7 on somebody else's floor. Yes, it was of their own making, but they had to win a game 7 on somebody else's floor. It makes me wonder if they find a way to scrap and get game 5. Does that stuff start to sneak into a relatively inexperienced playoff team in the Denver Nuggets, at least to this level? Does that start to sneak into their mind? Especially with Kevin Love and Jimmy Butler's here going, we've done this. I've done this before.
Yeah, but the difference is Kevin Love was in his late 20s, early 30s the last time it happened. Jimmy Butler is still a top 20 player in the NBA, but he can't carry that team across the finish line on his own. Miami is a very good team, granted. And they've done a lot to get this far. If they come back and pull this off, I dare say this could be a more impressive thing than when the Cavs did it. I really do. It's because then at that point you took out the top 3 teams in your conference and then took out the top team in the West. The Cavs didn't do that. The Cavs were the number 1 team in the conference when they went in.
That's true.
You had 1 against 1. Here, it's Miami who backed in, got in through the play-in, and then just started picking off upset after upset after upset. They basically went Princeton, St. Peter's, UMBC, whatever you want to call them.
Okay, no, and you're right. I think the feat would be more impressive. I don't think the finals comeback would be, considering what team the Cavaliers were playing. They were 73-9 and coming off a title.
I agree. It would be, you know what it would remind me of? It would actually spark the debate of what was the bigger 16-1 in the NCAA tournament. Was it the UMBC over Arizona, or was it Fairleigh Dickinson over Purdue? Now, granted, Purdue a little bit more inferior than what Arizona was, but Arizona was missing the best player in the country when UMBC knocked them off by 20. So it's a very, very tight discussion. So here you've got, the best player in the world beating the greatest regular season team of all time. But then again, you've also got a team that backed into the playoff going up against the second best team in all of basketball and was from the outset of the season.
And really should have had a third consecutive MVP in their center.
Right.
Listen, it's going to be I think Game 5 is going to be a lot of fun. You got one team with a chance to close out and one team with nothing to lose.
Right.
You want to talk about playing with house money. The Miami Heat aren't supposed to be here.
Yeah, this is either going to be very close or this is going to be a fourth quarter victory lap.
Well, let's hope it's close, because the close games are always more fun to watch. And as much fun as it would be, the sports fan in me with the heartstrings for Denver winning their first title. You'd rather see a competitive game, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And trust me, no one wants to see a Game 7 in that series more than me. Just because Game 7, the introduction to Game 7 in 2016, Bill Russell, of all people, said it. The greatest two words in all sport are Game 7.
Right.
So, yeah. Would I like to see it yet? Do I think it's going to happen? No, I think Denver's going to smoke them tomorrow night.
Yeah, I got a feeling that, I mean, you're going to be the happiest man in the in sports talk, radio, podcast, and media come Tuesdays, because no other sports are going to be going on outside of baseball after Tuesday, because the NBA Finals are going to end tomorrow night, and the NHL Stanley Cup Finals are going to probably end on Tuesday.
Yeah,
so Tuesday night by 10:30, 11 o'clock. Yeah, by the time you wake up on Wednesday, we're only gonna have to worry about baseball and golf.
That was an amazing segue, James. You didn't even plan that, though, did you?
No, I really did. I mean, I was thinking about it, but I actually wasn't even planning on it as a segue.
Well, listen, happy accidents, James. Happy accidents. We're going to go all Bob Ross on this. Do it.
Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
That's a long time for us. We're 27 minutes in. We didn't have.
Yeah, but it's, I mean, Mike actually saying happy accidents. Our guest has not arrived. We don't know if they are going to join us, so we might as well get them out now if we can.
Well, I still think that the bucket list item should still be the bucket list item.
Yeah.
Listen, we got someone who was an actual journalist to maybe give us one of the funniest off-the-rails segments we've ever had. I don't think it's too far out of the box to want to do this again. We're batting 1,000 here.
Yeah, it's Mike, would you actually like to explain the story?
So Jim and I, in our end of year episode last year, we've been trying to get who our hopeful guest tonight on is for some time now. And this person is a phenomenal journalist. So when we interviewed Patrick a few weeks ago about the Cavaliers and such, Patrick is also a phenomenal journalist. But our goal is for the people who are legitimate journalists to do something crazy with us on the air. Because quite honestly, that's what we're in this for. And bucket list item number 1 happened. Of course, Patrick has his own off the rails where he calls the Washington Wizards jersey a sex toy.
Nobody's taking that.
No one's taking that. That's a toy. What?
Yeah, we're gonna have Patrick back on before too long.
Oh yeah. So because we thought we'd have them on, and they're not here yet. Do you want to get to golf, or do you want to do a filler real quick?
Let's do a little bit of filler, because the thing with golf, it's more so going to be us kind of ranting than anything. I mean, there's a little bit of factual brought into that, but it's going to be more so ranting. But let's actually talk about. I alluded to this in the posting on to our social media pages, our personal pages. That. What is going on with the Mets and the Guardians right now? Both are under 500, and there's roster moves all over the place right now.
Here's what's going on with the Mets. And by the way, all of New York media is calling for Steve Cohen to come in and be George Steinbrenner. Steve Cohen said, "Yeah, I'm not doing that." He said, "What's the move if I get rid of Buck Showalter? Who's the hire?"
Right.
And no one has anything to say. It's the same thing I said to you guys about Ryan Day.
Jim Leland.
It's a different era. Smoking heaters in the dugout ain't gonna happen anymore.
Yeah, I was just gonna say we actually brought up Days of Thunder. It's what was the famous line? You hit every other goddamn thing out there. I want you to be perfect.
Exactly. So he made a good point. Look, the Mets' problem right now is inconsistency. It has been all year. But I'm going to take it a step further. I think the biggest issue with the New York Mets is Edwin Diaz got hurt. Because now you've shrunk the bullpen. You've got to put guys out there in situations they're not used to doing. Now, granted, David Robertson has been outstanding as the closer. Did he blow one in Atlanta last week? Yes, he did. And now they've lost Pete Alonso for a month.
Yeah.
So this is where you're going to have to see Mark Vientos, Brett Beatty. By the way, do you know, James, you ready for this? Francisco Alvarez has 140 plate appearances, and he's tied for the major league lead in home runs as a catcher. He's got 12.
Which, it's actually, baseball is good when catchers hit for power,
Steve Young said this the other day, and I agree with it 100%. And I'm not saying this is what he will be, but I'm saying this is the truth. This is the best power threat the Mets have had behind the plate since Mike Piazza was the catcher for the New York Mets. And that's crazy. So do I think this is where they're going to stay? No. Is Francisco Lindor a 240 hitter? No, he's not. But does he have nearly 50 RBIs already? He does. He's got 11 homers and 50 RBI, about 46 RBIs already. So he's been doing well. You're getting production from the kids. The Mets have to put it all to, steal the line from Lou Brown. They just need something to bring it all together.
Yeah.
Getting consistent starting pitching would be one. When the Mets starters go 6 innings or more, they're 17-1.
So who's getting the cutout where they peel sections?
I don't know, but there's a pitcher who's got a wife who I think would pose for that if it meant another World Series ring. I saw that eyebrow go up.
Because I'm trying to figure out who it is, but
James, who is Justin Verlander married to?
okay. Oh, all warm and fuzzy now.
Oh, here we go. Do you need a minute?
Bathroom's on the other side. I'll get a cold shower afterwards. I gotta wash the crap out of my hair before I go to bed anyway. Yeah, shut up.
I gotta cut my hair tomorrow. No, seriously, I meant to shower and shave and stuff tonight so I could sleep a little bit tomorrow morning. Didn't happen. He'll be out of bed at 5:15 again. So yeah, inconsistent play. Honestly, I think Buck Showalter wanting to trust veterans a little more than he should is part of the problem. As much as I love him, Daniel Vogelback needs to go. And I adore Daniel Vogelback.
You have a problem with yourself if you have a problem with Dan Vogelback.
You really do. Danny Burgers is, is great, but I think he needs to play the kids. I think Vientos needs to play first base every day while Pete is hurt. Brett Beatty needs to play third base every day, and Alvarez needs to do the majority of the catching. Narvaez is a nice guy to have as a backup if your catcher can hit bombs like Alvarez is doing. So I think they can turn it around. We got a lot of baseball left, over 90 games to play. Things can happen. Ask the 2019 Nationals, the 2021 Braves, and the 2022 Phillies, who were all under 500 at this point and all went on to win the pennant. So they've got time. They just need consistency to do it. So they need their two veterans at the top of the rotation. I'd love to see Quintana come back from the injury and be able to pitch well down the stretch. That'd be a nice thing to have too.
Because they actually, you guys right now, you're 9.5 out. You lost today. You're 2-8 in your last 10. And oh yeah, the three teams in front of you are red hot right now.
And they're not going to be red hot the rest of the time.
Right. It's, the Marlins and the Diamondbacks, as well as they're playing as far as they are over 500, the Diamondbacks have a lot more ability with their staying power to stay where they are as opposed to the Marlins overachieving. I personally think the Marlins are playing this year how the Guardians were playing last year. They're playing a lot of good young talent, and they're overachieving. Do they win a division? Do they get into the wild card? It's going to be it's all you're waiting for the other shoe to drop, but yet it hasn't yet.
I'm going to say something's going to break my heart, but I'm going to say it. I mean, the Atlanta Braves are going to run away and fucking hide in that division. They're just too good.
And oh yeah, the Pittsburgh Pirates woke up and are now back in first place after coming down to earth. But then again, that division, the two central divisions are some of the worst in baseball by far. But I mean, let's also be honest, they're probably the most entertaining right now.
Probably, because they're going to beat each other up all season.
Yep.
How about the two best teams in baseball played this past weekend, and it was Tampa Bay and Texas?
Yeah. Tampa Bay 28 over 500 and the Rangers 18 over 500 going in after tonight's play.
And I wanted to ask you this question. Mets dodged a bullet, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
I hate to see it.
Although I need you guys to do me a favor because you guys get the Astros starting on Tuesday. Please beat the shit out of them.
We'll do our best.
I'm excited. We took 2 out of 3 of them from them this weekend.
Did they?
When we talk about the Guardians here in a second, I'm going to bring that up. But let's circle back on the Mets here for you.
So, yeah, the Mets have the Houston coming up. They have the Subway Series coming up. This is going to be a trying month without Pete Alonso. It really is. Who, by the way, has 22 bombs already. He's going to hit 40 for the third time in his career. And then he's going to cash a big paycheck in the offseason. So let's talk about the guards. Let's talk about something funny about the guards. Playing the show this morning, doing the career thing. I'm in year 4 on my guy, 2027 or 2020. Yeah, 2027. Oh yeah, Andres Gimenez is back in a Met uniform.
You can tell it's fantasy land.
Yeah, I know. He's never leaving Cleveland. He shouldn't. And he shouldn't. So let's talk about the guards. Let's talk about if this team wakes up, they're going to be scary good. But they got to wake up.
31 and 34. They're 6-4 in their last 10. And oh yeah, they're actually now within a game and a half because Minnesota blew a 5-1 lead today and lost.
To who?
Toronto.
Toronto's tough, dude.
Yeah. And here's the thing. As good as Toronto is, they're 7 games over 500, and they're still 10 and a half back in that division.
Yeah, they started this run of garbage for the Mets because the Mets have – the scary part is the Mets had just swept Philadelphia and then got swept by Toronto in a couple of close games and went down to Atlanta, got smoked, and dropped 2-3 here to Pittsburgh. But what's the Guardians' schedule coming up?
They're off tomorrow, and then they actually have a 6-game roader. They start in San Diego. I'm not sure who follows that. I'm looking it up.
It's going to be one of the Western teams: Seattle, San Francisco, the Dodgers.
Come on. Yeah, it's 3 in San Diego, and then Oakland.
Okay.
No. 3 in San Diego, 3 in Arizona, and then they're home for a 6-game stand against Oakland and Milwaukee. Boy, can they fatten up their record there.
Yeah, what happened to the Brewers?
Falling off, and then right after that, I mean, this is where the Guardians can right themselves because after this trip with San Diego underperforming, you want to be able to hopefully get 2 out of 3 against Arizona. Then you can fatten up on Oakland, Milwaukee. Then you're on the road for Kansas City and the Cubs.
Cubs are tougher than people think. Marcus Stroman has found himself again. The Cubs are not an easy out like we thought they'd be. Dansby Swanson has added some leadership there. Nico Horner's having a good year. Hendricks the other night. Did you see him through a perfect game the other night?
Yeah. But here's the thing with the Cubs is that if they're not very good for teams that are streaking and playing well, so I mean, you figure if the Guardians, if the Guardians get a 3-3 split on this West Coast trip and then, can beat up on, Milwaukee and Oakland definitely and then you have to go at Kansas City. I mean, that's a 15-game stretch going into the 4th of July. Guardians can maybe go 10-5, 9-6 over that. Number one, they're back over 500. Number two, they're back in first place.
Yeah, I think they have to go 9-6 in that 15 in order to get back to where they really should be with as good as this team is. Again, the same thing with the Mets. It's inconsistency. One night they hit, they don't pitch. The next night they pitch, they don't hit.
Although they are starting to wake up. They shut out the Astros 6-0 today behind 9 strikeouts from Bieber. Lost last night, a tough game, 6-4. It was Friday night's game. I'm going to talk about this in depth here in a couple of moments. Probably the most entertaining game in all of Major League Baseball this year.
Is that the one they came back in the 10th or the 14th inning?
14th inning. They came back. Yeah, they came back in that one 4 times. But that was but now this is, I think, by the 4th of July, we're going to know whether or not they're buyers or sellers. And if they're sellers, the number one name on that list is going to be Shane Bieber. If he goes out and throws 9, if he throws 9 strikeouts and gives you 7 solid innings like he did today against the defending world champions, in the Astros, but it's which is actually good considering his last outing against Baltimore. He got roughed up, even though they still won that game. But Tristan McKenzie's back, Aaron Savali's back. They DFA'd. They DFA'd Zach Plesac, and Quantrill's now going down the disabled list, which Quantrill is way, way, way overdue because he's been basically lugging out gas cans, blue tips, and doing everything he can to burn down a stadium. Thank you, Jim Rome, for that drop. His last 3 starts, including when I was there on the 24th, where he didn't get out of the 4th inning.
I am Cal Quantrill, and welcome to Jackass.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, that was well overdue. I agree with you on that. I just don't know. See, I think the biggest thing going for the Guardians is the rest of the Central Division just doesn't have it, if you know what I mean. Minnesota is at best. The
White Sox already failed on their rebuild, which should have been last year. Now you've got the same cast, but you got a whole new mindset and game plan. It's just not working.
Yeah, but you don't have the same set because Jose Abreu is in Houston.
Right. The Tigers were starting to make a run, and they've lost 9 in a row, and the Royals are the Royals.
Exactly. So this, I will say this now. This division is for the Guardians to take or for them to blow. They don't have the issue that the Mets do, that there is maybe the best roster in baseball in their division. I still want to know what the GM in Atlanta has and all these young dudes that they're taking these below market deals to stay in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Did he get him out with Dwight Howard one night? What's going on?
The terrible 12th hole.
Seriously. Speaking of, did you see he called LeBron and said, yo, you can be the GM, the coach, the owner if you come over here and play with him in the Philippines or wherever the hell he's playing?
I mean, you probably could.
Oh, my God. I can't.
But yeah, I mean, with the Guardians, their entire pitching staff, that starting rotation now. McKenzie comes back off his first action all season. He throws 9 strikeouts, and then he does get roughed up a little bit yesterday. But I mean, that was going to happen. But Friday night's game, again, most entertaining in all of baseball. The Astros jump out 3-0 on a home run in the first inning. Jose Abreu, they're up 4-0 and then 5-1. Guardians come back, tie it. Astros go up 6-5, I want to say, in the 8th. Guardians tie it at 9 and nearly won it, where the ball, I want to say was about 2 feet short of getting out and turned into a double in the ninth. And then they go back and forth. Houston goes up 1 in the 10th. Guardians tie it. Goes up. Houston goes up 1 in the 10th. Guardians tie in the 11th. And then this happened all the way until the 4th inning, where the Guardians shut them down, and then walked it off in the bottom of the 14th.
Listen, they're a resilient bunch, and I love watching them play. Well, I don't watch now. I actually do the condensed games on YouTube in the morning. So like I'll get up when I come downstairs, shower or whatever. I'll have a cup of coffee and I'll put YouTube on the television, and I'll watch a condensed game for like 8, 9, 10 minutes. And you get everything except the crap in between, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, they're going to turn this thing around. I have a lot of faith, especially in that coaching staff that has been a part of turnarounds like this in midseason. That 16 team didn't start off great.
Right.
I was there the first full weekend of the season. They did not look that great that weekend.
Right.
As far as the coming back thing goes, it sounds like they basically did to Houston what the Mets did to them a couple weeks ago in New York. In that one game where the Guardians had the big lead, the Mets came back, they get the lead, they come back. Were they hitting dingers or were they putting things together?
I think the only major dinger was Jose hitting a solo. Jose hit 3 the other night, and then he hit another one. I want to say yesterday he hit one, so he's got like 4 home runs in his last 3 games or something like that.
And congratulations to him for number 200 as well, by the way.
Yeah, and then why am I drawing a blank now? Naylor is just absolutely mashing right now. Right, I think right now Naylor is leading the team in batting.
Seriously?
And yet everyone now is more so excited, not so much about Josh. Yeah, Naylor's leading the team with he's hitting 282. Jose's got 10 runs. Naylor leads in RBIs. He's got 8 jacks and 48 RBIs. But everyone now is thinking they can't get any hitting whatsoever out of the catching position. When are they going to call up his brother full time?
See, and that's something I want to talk to you about, but we're going to go more. We're going to save that conversation for another show because we do have this trade deadline coming up. I'm going to plant the seed for another show. Did you see what the Big Ten announced?
With the schedule, yeah.
I think you, myself, and Mr. Rice really need to spend about an hour on that.
We do, although it was funny that – hang on.
You know, at least mine's
Okay.
vibrate.
No, it's in 2 minutes it will be because it goes into sleep mode after 10. And I didn't want to do it because then the alarm would be vibrating tomorrow morning because it'd still be in that mode. So, but I find it hilarious that certain schools had as many as 3 protected rivalry games, and there's a couple that don't have any.
I know that the only game Ohio State will play every year is Michigan. It's the only game they'll play. They're guaranteed. They go to UCLA the first year, and USC comes east the second year. So that's going to be fun. We'll get into that with John. Of course, you and I have been talking about doing a college football preview to begin with. And did you see the SEC is doing the same thing and are still only playing 8 conference games?
Yeah, but they also have 37 teams in their conference as of next year, it seems. So, I mean, unless they're going to be playing double headers, that's going to happen.
They're still playing less conference games than every other conference in the country. It's still allowing for teams like Alabama and Auburn the week before rivalry week to play the Citadel and the College of Charleston.
Yeah, but it's and as there's the notification of sleep mode, but it's to the point anymore where the SEC is going to do this, but you have to figure if they're doing, let's say, for example, if the Big Ten is doing their 3 non-conference tune-ups at the start of the season, then going into conference. If you're the SEC, if you're doing 2 at the start going into conference and then doing 1 at the end before rivalries, and you're still getting your conference games in.
Yeah, but they're doing more than that. They're playing a 12-game schedule, and 4 of them are cupcakes.
And that should hurt them, which actually means now that the expansion is coming in, it should. You're going to see by the time they expand, they're going to tell the SEC either add an extra conference game or this is going to start hurting them because it's going to give more. It's going to bolster up the Big Ten.
I think it should bolster the Big Ten. I mean, again, the SEC champion is probably going to end up being the overall number 1 seed every single year, but it should hurt them that the at-larges should be the lower seeds. Like, way lower. Like, all right, you didn't want to play anybody worth their salt. Guess what? Your ass is going on the road. You're going north.
Yeah.
So with the last few minutes here, let's get into the golf since it doesn't look like our guest will be appearing. And I, wore this shirt for nothing. Kidding. The big Rican shirt's underneath with the block on them. So. And let's talk about the thing that happened. And, the PGA Tour basically bent over and took one up the tailpipe and took the money from the Saudis and ran as is it called LIV or is it LIV? How the frick do they say that?
Either or. It's basically 54 in Roman numerals because that's the number of holes that they play on a weekend.
Oh, they don't play 4 rounds?
No, they only play 3.
Pussies. Anyway, so the Saudi-backed Phil Mickelson ran LIV Tour has now basically purchased the PGA Tour, and they have merged, and there are players who are pissed. Did you see Scott Van Pelt on Pat McAfee?
I did not, but I mean,
No
all you had to say, really the first person that should come to mind is Rory.
But let me put it this way. No one knew. Rory didn't know. Tiger didn't fucking know.
Nobody. Yeah.
And that's the one thing he made McAfee very well aware of. He goes, listen, think of a guy who's been doing it a while. And Pat said, Rory, he goes, think of a guy who's been doing it for over 20 years who transcended the sport. Nobody knew. Van Pelt's making the rounds as really the last good ESPN anchor in their golf guide. He did Dan Patrick. I'm sure he'll do Rich Eisen, who he worked with when he was at ESPN.
Rory sits on the PGA Tour policy board, too, and he wasn't even clued in.
If I'm Rory McIlroy, I'm fucking hot. Is Tim Finchem still the commissioner of the PGA?
No, it's Tim Monahan. And boy, is he taking it on the Jay Monahan. Yeah. And they actually just finished up north this weekend for the RBC Canadian Open. And here's the funny thing is I jotted this down. Nick Taylor hit a 72-foot eagle on the 4th playoff hole to win in Ontario. First Canadian in 69 years to win the Canadian Open.
Mike Weir didn't win that? I'm shocked.
But Monahan's meeting with players and the press. He's being called a hypocrite to his face. Australian golfer Jeff Ogilvy even said, yeah, he sat there and took it. And he even told reporters afterwards that somebody actually called him a hypocrite to his face in the players' meeting.
Yeah, they basically said they were taking money from the devil if they left the PGA Tour and went to this place. Now the PGA Tour took the devil's money.
Yeah, it's the exact quote that Monahan said. As a matter of fact, 1 year ago this week, because he said it in the lead up to the RBC Open, quote, have you ever had to apologize for being a member of the PGA Tour, end quote.
Well, I guess everybody's apologizing now there, Jay. I get the money portion of it. I really do, Jim. We're talking about the college football playoff a minute ago. Let's talk about that. That's a fucking money grab. So is this. But here's my problem. it really seems to me like they were playing this on the. Can I tell you what the PGA Tour reminds me of right now? Browns fans.
Yeah.
Ray
Go ahead with your
Plisberger
point because I
Ray,
went off on this earlier
Ray
this week.
Plisberger. Oh yeah, you did, and it was a great piece, by the way.
Thank you.
Ray Plisberger for years and years and years. Oh, he didn't do anything. Now that the guy's wearing your colors, that did worse. It's a clusterfuck. That's the best word for it.
Here's my honest question, and I brought this up in the blog. Did Jay Monahan supplant Gary Bettman as the dumbest commissioner in professional sports in North America?
No, because no one's taken that from Rob Manfred.
But Manfred has made some bad decisions. Bettman basically ran the NHL into the ground and will not move a team out of Arizona out of principle. Monahan did this and didn't even tell his players.
So Monahan is now the worst, but I will tell you this. Gary Bettman didn't run the NHL into the ground. Gary Bettman became a casualty of ESPN letting the NFL teabag them. Think about it. What was on ESPN when we were kids? You had National Hockey Night, you had baseball. And now, because they paid $1 billion for Monday Night Football, it's NFL Network Part 2. The NHL took a hit. Well, that and then their lockout year killed them.
Yeah.
That notwithstanding, Monahan is the worst. He is the absolute fucking worst.
Let's take 30 seconds and rank them. PGA Tour, Tim Monahan, NHL, Gary Bettman, and I'm just throwing the names out there and then we could slot them accordingly. Rob Manfred in baseball, Adam Silver in basketball, and Roger Goodell in the NFL. Where are you slotting them?
Monahan is the worst. Bettman would be the second worst. Manfred, Goodell, and Silver only because I won't put Goodell first.
You know what? I gotta go the exact same 5. I gotta go with the exact same order.
Look, Roger Goodell has. Well, let's put it this way. If we're talking about worst business decisions, yes, Bettman and Monahan are the 2 worst. If we're talking about moral level, Monahan and Goodell are the worst.
Right.
Because you suspended Josh Gordon 84 times for smoking weed. You gave, and again, he paid a penalty and he came clean about what he did. You gave Kareem Hunt 4 games. No, you gave him more than that because they put him on the restricted list. You gave Deshaun Watson 11 games. He didn't even get 1 per accuser.
You swept every Patriot scandal under the rug because they were your darlings.
Exactly.
And you know what? This is actually where Bettman, for Monahan to do this, I think has overtaken Bettman, and I think it's by a landslide with this. Because let's also think about this. Goodell covered up everything that the Patriots did over that time. The Robert Kraft scandal, Deflategate, Spygate, all of that. And they were the media darlings. Gary Bettman didn't sanction, and the Board of Governors did not sanction the Blackhawks in the wake of the Kyle Beach scenario. You've got that. Sure. He banned Scotty Bowman's kid who was in the Blackhawks front office and Joel Quenneville. Now they're actually looking to possibly come back in and get reinstated into the NHL. So you have those guys. Essentially, that was the only fallout from the majority of the entire thing. But yet, they didn't take $2 billion from the PIF.
Jim, Rob Manfred didn't suspend anybody from the Houston Astros.
Right.
And Alex Cora, who lost his job with Boston for a year, And AJ Hinch, who's now the manager in Detroit, and Carlos Beltran is working for the Mets again.
And Carlos Correa had a record payout, even though it came over 3 teams in the matter of a month.
I mean, come on. They've all got stuff wrong.
Verlander's pitching for you guys.
Yeah, but Verlander was on the team in 2017. Oh, was he? Oh, he was. He was. But yeah, but they weren't helping the pitchers. They were helping out the hitters. I mean, if anything, maybe Adam Silver is the best one out of them because he's hammering dudes who do stupid shit.
Right, but it's almost as if it's default because you can't take the NBA seriously with the super teams and the way that the way that these things stack up anymore.
Yeah, but Silver's thinking more global. I mean, Goodell is trying to with amount of games in London, and then you got the one in Munich. But Silver is basically, he was David Stern's right hand and made this league global from that level. So he's thinking more globally, and that's why he's trying to do the things he's trying to do. But yeah, this is ridiculous. If I'm Rory McIlroy, I'm swinging a 4-iron at somebody.
Let me pose this question, and I put it at the end of the blog here. Well, 2 questions here. If you're the PGA Tour, Monahan aside, what kind of fine would you levy? What do you think would be an appropriate fine to levy against these live players that now want to get their tour cards back?
Make them go to Q school again. You can't really levy a fine because at the end of the day, PGA players are independent contractors. They work for themselves. PGA,
but they had to give up their card when they announced that they were bolting for live.
And that's fine. But they're still independent contractors. They're not unionized. They're not employees of the league. You know, when you're a baseball player and you're an employee and you play for the New York Mets, when you get your paycheck, you get a W-2. You don't get a 1099 for that year.
Right.
You're not a self-employed. When you're a PGA professional, you get, unless you're a club pro and getting paid, you get a 1099. You're an independent contractor. They don't take taxes out of that. You got to hire an accountant who's not going to screw you out of money. And that's how you do your stuff. So to levy a fine would be the wrong thing. Make the sons of bitches go to fucking Q school again. Watch how many of them won't.
Yeah, I actually said, I think what I said was $1 million fine and a trip back to either Q school or the Corn Ferry Tour.
You can't do the fine because they're not, the PGA can't levy fines other than misconduct at their events.
Brooks Koepka left the tour last year to start for the first season of Live Golf, won a Live event earlier this year, got a $20 million payout, wins the PGA a couple of weeks ago and gets a $3.1 million payout because the Live events are funded by the Saudi group, whereas the PGA events are basically the purses based off of sponsorships.
Yeah.
But you telling me that $23 million he's already made this year that you couldn't hit Brooks Koepka with a $500,000 fine? Don't even make it $1 million. Make it $250,000.
You can. The problem there becomes, never mind, don't call it a fine. Call it an entry fee. You want to come back? We want some bucks. And you're going to Q school.
You know what? What about maybe doing giving them the option? You don't want to pay a $500,000 fine? Split the difference. If you don't want to pay a $500,000 fine, you're going back to the Corn Ferry Tour. And you got to work your way back up. Or Q school.
I would say Q school. Because the Corn Ferry Tour, they're going to win and they're going to do things on those courses to get back to the PGA Tour quickly.
Yeah, but they're going to have to do that for at least a full year on the Corn Ferry Tour to be able to earn enough of a card to jump.
That's very true, but you also are going to have sponsors who are going to get the sponsors exemptions to play in the big tournaments.
That's true.
And it's not going to be Fred Couples getting at the Houston Shell Open anymore. It's going to be Brooksy. It's going to be Phil. It's going to be all those boys that left for the Live Tour that are now going to be back in the PGA. So instead of letting them do that, make them. You cannot get a sponsor exemption if you don't have a PGA Tour card. Q School, small fine, call it the entry fee, and be done with it. Get them back playing and having them bring in the fans and bring in the ratings.
Here's the other question. We'll kind of wrap up the topic on this here. Could you see that the PGA Tour players, especially now with the U.S. Open next week, let's see what this looks like, because you had the major a couple of weeks ago, and it was everything that could have gone wrong did go wrong. That you had a live guy win it, and you had another one finish in the top 5. But then now you've actually got these live guys coming completely back into the fold for the U.S. Open next week. On Father's Day weekend, as is typical with the U.S. Open. But could you see that there's enough backlash from existing players that you've got a guy like Rory speaking out? You had Jeff Ogilvy. You've got, what if Tiger comes out and blasts this? Do you see a scenario where some of these high-profile players might actually go out and start their own independent type well, hang on. Like an exhibition type tour, and then be able to see if they can start getting funding, and see if they can maybe get a backer of their own to be able to make this thing a little bit more regular. Because let's be honest right now, with the fact that you've got the PGA Tour, you've got the DP Tour, which is essentially the European Tour, and now LIV, you've basically built a monopoly. There's nowhere else for these guys to go play if they don't want to take the Saudi money.
See, here's where you're onto something, but there's one domino that has to fall. And that one domino is Tiger. If Tiger comes out, who, by the way, through all his scandals and everything else, he is still very measured with the media. He is still very respected and loved among fans and players alike. Even though
you can't take him as a serious contender, since the scandals happened. But yes, he still transcends the game. And as much as I said a couple of months ago after the Masters that golf needs to start distancing itself from the Tiger simplex of thinking, let's put all the media coverage on Tiger because, yeah, he's the guy that basically brought golf to where it is now. You need to start moving away from that a little bit. But Tiger is also going to be the key to figuring out where golf evolves now that you've got essentially a civil war brewing.
So basically, if Tiger comes out and says, and I quote, fuck him. Plain English, fuck him. Because they turned their back on the PGA Tour, which is where everybody wants to play, and yada yada. If Tiger throws it, especially Brooks Koepka being one of the big guys from the LIV Tour, that's his boy. If he takes shots at his own personal friend, yeah, then I can see guys wanting to go, you know what? Let's see if we can. Don't get me wrong. Do I think Rory's going to walk up to Brooks and punch him in the face, as entertaining as that would be? No. Do I think dudes are going to be hockey-style fighting on the 9th green? No. But there are going to be words. I don't think you'll see LIV golfers in foursomes or threesomes with to play with guys from the tour that are pissed.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting when the pairings come out for the majors. Do they put all the LIV guys together? Do they split some of them up? Do you basically put maybe a LIV guy with 2 more inexperienced, guys who are long shots in the PGA Tour who may not actually get, the run? I don't know if you saw any of the Netflix series Full Swing, but I'm trying to what is his name? European guy, funky ass pants. I can't think of his name. What's that?
Jesper Parnevik?
No, he always wore the flipped up cap in the front. But
Angel Jimenez?
God, I love you.
Was it him?
No, it was but anyway, because they did an entire episode about this whole thing and they followed that guy around. It's going to drive me nuts for a few minutes. Matter of fact, while I'm actually talking, I'm going to look that up in the background. But yeah, I think you're right. I mean, if like Tiger's the catalyst to this whole thing, but if he comes out and says something like that, it would be I think that would be kind of the nail at that point, because let's also be honest, is that you've still got Rory, who's the number 3 player in the world. You've got Jordan Spieth is still up there. Patrick Reed bolted, who's a top 10. Dustin Johnson was a former world number 1 and bolted. Did you see the story involving him real quick? That he almost pulled out of the PGA because he said he hurt his back?
No, I didn't.
Do you want to know what his excuse was when he was asked by reporters?
What did he do?
Extracurricular activities with his wife.
Stop it.
You know who his wife is?
No.
Paulina Gretzky. Yes,
That's right.
That last name should sound familiar.
Yeah, the child of the biggest trade in NHL history. Is it Ian Poulter?
Yes. Can't stand Ian Poulter.
Me neither. That's
But it's just I really wanted to watch the RBC Open. It's one of the more entertaining tours that I typically watch. I couldn't stomach turning it on at all this weekend.
Yeah, I with golf, I usually do the majors and then the Lake Tahoe one, because that's always the Pro-Am's always fun.
Yeah, but it's like I'm anxious to see how many people are actually going to tune in for the U.S. Open now that all of this is.
Yeah, it's still the U.S. Open.
It is still the U.S. Open, but it's like it's lost a lot of its luster because they've turned so many people off with this.
Dude, you were 15 years from Tiger on one leg. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Well,
that was Rocco, wasn't it?
It was Rocco.
Yeah.
With the greatest line ever that I've ever heard a golfer say when someone made a putt. Do you remember what he said? Tiger makes a 72nd hole, and Rocco walks out of the tent and goes, "Did you think he'd miss it?"
Of course, it's Rocco. Rocco was always great for a soundbite.
Oh, Rocco played inspired that week.
Right.
So I see we're at 113 to change, James. What do you say we get to my new favorite segment that you and I do, and we call it a night?
Yeah, because we actually said we were going to cut off right around this point. So yeah, let's do it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is the myth, the phenomenon. It is the Wisely Translator. And just to explain it again for everybody who's watching for the first time, James and I will think of a name, we will give it to the other one, and then the basis of word association, we will come up with something off the top of our head when it comes to that. So far, my personal favorites are when our good buddy John Rice called Joel Embiid a walking insurance claim, when James called Kyrie Irving douche canoe in a lovely sing-song voice, and when I compared Brett Favre to a small fat man in a white suit.
We're going to, since it's just the two of us, and this is like the first time it's been the two of us doing the Wisely Translator in a while.
It's the second time we've done it just us.
Well, it's been the first time in a while.
Yeah.
We're gonna throw a couple at each other tonight.
I agree. And I have one for you off the top, James. And I don't mean to hit you again with this, but I have to. James, your first name in the Wisely Translator is Jack Eichel.
Sticking with the golf theme, piece of monkey shit. Thank you, Happy Gilmore.
Yes, thank you, Happy Gilmore. You eat pieces of shit for breakfast? No.
No. I'm playing for Chubbs. No, I'm playing for Chubbs.
Yeah, Grizzly Adams had a beard.
Grizzly
Best-
Adams did have a beard.
Best cameo by a golfer in any movie ever.
Lee Trevino, he was all over that movie too.
But that's the only line he had in the whole movie.
Yeah, because the other one was. You know what we need to do? We need to do how we did our favorite sports movies. We need to just do an episode where it's just us spouting off one-liners from my favorite comedies. Like Major League, Happy Gilmore, Slapshot.
Oh, yeah, we'll have to do that. James, what do you got for me?
Michael, your first name tonight in the YZ Translator. Figure I'm going to hit you kind of below the belt the same way you did me. Pete Alonso.
Fuck Charlie Morton.
The salt guy?
The scumbag old man who pitches for Atlanta, that piece of shit. And then the Atlanta fans, by the way, best line in Twitter history. The Atlanta fans cheered when Pete got hit. Someone puts on Twitter, that's the loudest Atlanta fans have cheered since the Confederacy. Doo-wop. Oh, I'm going to miss him over this next month. James, I have one more for you. And this one is not going to hit you below the belt. However, it's also not one I think you will have something angry to say. James, your next name in the YZ Translator is Phil Mickelson.
Take the money and run. Take the money and run. Two words. Shut up.
Thank you. I still love him too.
Yeah, Phil was my guy for the longest time, and he has now been the most vocal against the PGA Tour. You won 6 majors. You're getting paid out. You took, I want to say it was like, I can't remember if it was like 50 or 100 million to leave the PGA Tour, and now all you're doing is blasting them and actually talking still about pending litigation. Shut up and go away, Phil. You got your major last year. You became the oldest ever to do it. Shut up and go away, please.
And I have to say this, the great moment between him and Payne Stewart on the 18th green on Sunday of the 98 U.S. Open. His firstborn's 25 this year. Because that was his first kid that Payne told him, you'll win your majors, go be a dad. And then, of course, we lost Payne later that summer.
Right.
But yeah, that kid's 25. That don't compute.
And yet what's funny with Phil is that all the commercials that he did and everything that we heard over the years with him and Amy, and now he's pretty much public enemy number one. Just like that.
He wanted to give his boy Tiger a break.
Yeah. Michael, your second name in the YZ Translator tonight, John Morant.
Somebody please get this man a gun.
John Wick wannabe.
The only difference is you don't call John Morant when you want to kill the fucking boogeyman.
You know, there's a dude from Law and Order from SVU was in that scene with them.
You want to know the other hysterical thing?
It's mayhem.
Right.
I hear you struck my son. Yeah, well, he stole John Wick's car and killed his dog. Oh.
I still got to see the fourth one.
I haven't seen any of them. So we're at an hour and 21, and we will, at James, next week's episode, if you put up the banner for it, we don't know when it's going to be. Better not dig in, because I don't know where it's going.
I swear to God.
We will let you guys know when next week's episode is. It's with it being Father's Day. I'll be traveling to see my father-in-law for Father's Day. So Sunday night will be out, and Thursdays I'm working late. So we're going to shoot for probably Friday. If not, we will begin negotiations about long-form episode on Saturday the 24th. So if we skip a week, we apologize, but we will come back to you, as Mike Greenberg used to say, back and better than ever on the 24th. James, what's coming up in the sports note?
We actually have two things in the pipe. One goes live tomorrow. It's already written. I'm going to be recording the video right after I click off of here. It's in the pipe. It goes live at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. The greatest female fighter in UFC history walked away last night. And
Amanda Nunes walked away?
Amanda Nunes walked away in a move that nobody knew and nobody saw coming. There's a part of, and I'm going to bring this up in the video, there's a part of you that always kind of wanted Amanda Nunes to lose, but not the way that you want John Jones to lose every time they go out, or a Conor McGregor. Because Amanda Nunes losing would mean that it would be a little bit more parity back to the division. But the UFC's got some really big shoes now to fill, and congratulations on an absolutely incredible career.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed. So I look forward to reading that, as I look forward to reading all your stuff.
We've also got a little bit of a College World Series preview. Did you see what Wake Forest did yesterday? Or I should say earlier today?
Dude, I didn't see it earlier today, but the umpires yesterday went off the fucking rails.
Wake Forest tied an NCAA record and hit 9 home runs in a 22-5 rout of Alabama. They are now the first number 1 nationwide overall ranked seed to make the College World Series since Florida in 2018.
Good.
Wake Forest, who hasn't been to the NCAA tournament since 1955 when they won it.
Tells me they're going to win it again.
God, I hope so. It'd be nice. Although this year's field is loaded.
Yeah, no, this looks like it's going to be a great one. The ladies' one is over. Oklahoma won again. So I am glad to see them do that. But James, it has been a wonderful evening. We did cut it down. We just had a very big topic to hit at the end, which I think is what killed us. And hopefully we'll be able to get our guest on here at some point in time. But as always,
real quick, what do you got planned for Father's Day?
We're going to Palm Coast, Florida to see my father-in-law. Going to be by the pool and going to try and relax a little bit, and then come home Sunday and figure out what we're doing. But I'm not getting back till late Sunday, so that'll be a little rough. But we'll talk.
My dad and we're going to go see The Flash. I'm going to get tickets this weekend. So, ironically enough, last year for Father's Day, it's almost turned into a tradition, because last year at Father's Day, what opened that weekend? Top Gun Maverick. So it was the 3 Crinity boys for that. My brother's probably not going to be able to join us this time, but I definitely want to see The Flash. So we're going to do that, and then probably go over and see my brother for a little bit. And we got a little something in mind, for Pops, but it's I'm not going to say too much, just because I know sometimes he goes back and watches on demand. He doesn't watch live, but we really think he's going to love what we got in store for him this year.
Beautiful. Well, if I don't happen to see you in this setting, tell your dad and your brother happy Father's Day from all of us here in Southern Georgia. And we will let everybody know when the next episode's going to be, whether it's this week or it's the long form on Saturday the 24th. But Jim, as always, it was absolutely wonderful. Saying invigorating, but I'm going to bed, so it's not that invigorating. And everybody, have a great rest of your night. Jim, thank you so much. For JC Bluno, I am the Big Rican saying there's only one way we can end our episodes, James.
The guy is drunk, but there he goes.
Exactly. Have a great night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.